Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Andrew Stott and I'm the Emperor of Stomaria. Today we're hosting another live. Now already this has proven to be a bit of a disaster because I did have a live set up already and was up for about an hour or so. I went to go live at the allotted time at 9 o'clock, but unfortunately for whatever reason the internet crashed or whatever else, and I couldn't for the life of me get the live working. So I am just going to take a quick minute just to check that we are indeed live. So you'll have to bear with me because I don't know if the original live that went out is still there or if it's actually functioning. It looks like it is actually working. So just having a quick look here. Okay, good. I can see we have a few comments already. I did notice that there were some people on the other live that I put up. Hopefully they'll, you know, they'll get transferred over, but I'll have to leave it at that. So again, you can see we've got some comments. Got Steph saying hi, the Republic of Sova saying hello. Have you decided if you like Sparta? I asked last time. You didn't send me any more information about it, so I'm afraid I can't comment on it still. Well, if you did, it certainly never reached me. If you want to send any details about your nation or your community or whatever else, then please do so. All our contact details are on the website, so just send it to us there, and then it should be fine. Archdragon, you're coming in fine. I think you were the ones that were on one of the previous live stream that we linked to. So annoying. Across all of our social media, we sent out links to that live stream, so they're going to come, I think, into it's probably a dead link now or a dud. No good whatsoever, which is a real pain because I typically allow some time, half an hour, whatever else, for people to sort of hop on board just prior to the live. But obviously something went awry, and yeah, it is what it is. It is what it is. So I'm just gonna have a little bit of a play around here for a second, so you'll have to excuse me. Right. So before I get into addressing the sort of live Q&A, which is obviously the purpose of this video, I did want to briefly touch on a few things, because I wasn't initially going to do a live today at all, and it was only a few hours ago really when I decided, you know what, I haven't really got anything planned for today. It's Friday night, I'm a dad, I'm a husband, I don't go anywhere on Friday nights. Even when I had that opportunity, I never took that opportunity. So I thought, I've got the time to do a live, so I'm going to do a live. And shortly after I decided that I was going to do a live, some news crossed my my path, and it was regarding Transnistria. Now, for those who don't know, there is a bit of a history between Stomaria and Transnistria, which is a breakaway state. It's formerly a part of Moldova, but it's considered to be a Russian separatist entity. It's got Russian troops there and all the rest of it. It's border to Ukraine, and I have made videos about it in the past because we did have someone that used to affiliate with Stomaria called Bran Howell, who some may be familiar with, and when they left, we weren't particularly fussed or concerned about it, except the fact that because they're based in Transnistria, started a recruitment drive of sorts, trying to get people to come and live there with him. Now, people associated Bran Howell with Stomaria for a long time because of their association with us. I'd never heard of him before that, but because we're quite more, we're better known, a lot of people associated that sort of recruitment campaign with us, and we had to intervene on numerous occasions to tell people that we weren't actually involved in this whatsoever. And I outlined the reasons and the rationale as to why we don't want to encourage people to move to Transnistria, because it's not only adjacent to an active war zone, again, it's sort of border to Ukraine, but it's also considered to be under Russian military occupation by large swathes of the wider world. And in the news recently, the government of Transnistria has actually sent a formal request to Russia asking for their protection against what I believe the president of Transnistria defines as a genocide. That is to say, Moldova is being accused of genocide because I think they've imposed some sort of tariffs or something on Transnistria, and that's what apparently constitutes a genocide in their eyes. So, you know, watch this space. I mean, this is the sort of thing that I was always worried about happening, because again, it's adjacent to an active war zone. It's been occupied by the belligerent of that war, and so there was always a risk that something might happen. And this is obviously just one more thing to be wary of if those people who have come across Brownhelm or had conversations with him or whatever else and thought about visiting or moving there permanently or whatever else, because of the promises of cheap land and cheap energy and all the rest of it. Just be careful, because there's a reason that everything in Transnistria is cheap. And just as an aside, there is also very limited, if not any, consular support if you travel to Transnistria. So particularly in these relatively turbulent times, just be careful. So I just wanted to mention that. Now, the other more pressing Stomarian-related topics that I want to cover today really revolves around what I would like to do going forward, going into the future. Because Stomaria is obviously going through a process of trying to refine itself and simplify as much as we can in terms of its structure, in terms of the citizenship recruitment, in terms of its governance, and all the rest of it. And I have been floating some ideas over the last week or two as to how we might go forward, how we might progress, certainly when it comes to Stomaria's sort of governing structure and how we get people involved. And I may talk at some length in terms of how I see us potentially going forward. But I should stress that this is just me talking aloud. Nothing has been set in stone. I haven't even spoken to the fellow member states of the Empire about this in a formal capacity. It's just a talking point, because I think it is interesting to discuss from a wider perspective in terms of people always contact us saying, how should we be governed, how should we be structured, what should our driving purpose be, how do we get citizens, and all the rest of it. And there's no right or wrong answer necessarily as to any of these questions, and Stomaria is no exception when it comes to trying to find a balancing act and trying to get the right system in place. So again, that's something we'll probably just talk about. But before I do, we'll just quickly dive into some of these quick comments while I've got it. Republic of Soul says, I love Sparta. I think it's a different Sparta. I mean, there's obviously the Sparta that everyone knows about. I think they're referring to their own community, their own nation, or whatever else it might be defined as. Steph says, my bad. Oh, sorry, because he didn't actually send the details, so he says, my bad. But he has asked, what is your ideology? So Stomaria has many ideologies, depending on what exactly you're talking about, in the sense that when it comes to the environment, we're very keen on environment. We're environmentalists, so we're big in environmentalism, ecology, and that sort of thing. When it comes to sort of governance of Stomaria, obviously we are monarchists. More specifically, we are advocates of absolute monarchism, of the reasons of which I've gone before. When it comes to taxation, we obviously perhaps a bit more libertarian when it comes to, because we don't have a system of enforced taxation. People contribute as much or as little as they want. And so the list goes on and on. So, a blend of monarchism and environmentalism and libertarianism and whatever else. It really just depends on the topic in question. Because we're not like, we're not a political party as such. We are a nation, we're a community. We can't afford to just have a single opinion point and just run with it. A lot of our values and aspirations have to do with what is sustainable and what preserves the natural rights of the individual, but at the same time, what will allow for some sort of social cohesion. And beyond that, we have various values and aspirations that we want to promote. And not all of these can be sort of just pigeonholed into your left and your right or whatever else. Throughout the entirety of my life, I've never been one or the other. I've always seen value in certain policies or values or ideals that can be pulled from the left and the right. I have to say that over time I've probably drifted more to the right, in the sense that I've become perhaps more libertarian in time, as opposed to more left-wing beliefs. But I'm not like a hardcore libertarian. I'm not a hardcore conservative or whatever else. So our ideology is quite broad in that sense, but it revolves around, as I say, things that we consider to be essential, being sustainability. So, like a sustainable monetary system, a sustainable agrarian economy, a sustainable energy sector, and all the rest of it. Things that are going to be renewable. So we're again big on renewables, big on organic farming, big on the utilization of sound money, gold and silver as a medium of exchange, because it's proven over the last how many thousands of years to be the best medium of exchange out there. Things that are sustainable, that's what we're after. When it comes to natural rights, preserving the natural rights of the individual, that's already something that's been well established. We're ardent opponents of what you might call collectivism, and that means when it comes to sort of ideologies like hardcore socialism or communism or neo-Nazism or fascism or any ideology that believes in groupthink, about pitting one group against the other. That is ultimately what these sorts of ideologies devolve down to, and is ultimately what we're opposed to. Which is why, as I say, we're quite more libertarian on that front. But anyway, waffling on a lot and just going around in circles a little bit, but I just wanted to sort of help explain that our ideology is not a clear-cut left, right, or whatever else. We're quite broad church in that sense, but we do have a set of common values that these ideologies sort of pull into. Here we've got I live in Wessex, I got to sleep by now. All right, no problem. What is it? 9:15. You're in Wessex, so it is 9:15 for you. Okay, so you're obviously not a night owl. That's no problem at all. You have a good evening. Republicus Sova says Rochester. See you later. Stomaria, recognise me please. I'm the Republic of Sova, monarchy, democracy, located in Rochester and got independence in 2022. When you say Rochester, I'm just trying to think now, because my geography is pretty terrible at the best of times. Portland, Rochester. Yeah, New York. Okay. Yeah, sorry, I'm just reading about you. I mean, I don't think I've come across the Republic of Sova before, but I mean, not opposed to. I don't do recognition treaties, like mutual recognition treaties or anything like that. What we typically do is we have, or intend to have, friendships, alliances, or people that are the heads of communities or nations that share similar values and aspirations to our own, to the point where they can become integrated into the empire itself. So it's our version of an organization, if you like, but it's far more cohesive than any organization that you might come across, in the sense that we have a particular driving purpose, and all of our participants are going to be active, and they're all going to be working towards similar goals, and it's going to be tangible goals, which involves private freehold land and the utilization of that land to accomplish our objectives. So it really depends on who you are, and how old you are, what your aspirations are going to be. So if you are interested in some kind of affiliation with Stomaria, then I'd recommend you send us an email, and we will review the request, as we do with all of them. I should warn you, we have an exceptionally high decline rate, because our standards for association with Stomaria are exceptionally high. If you want to find out more, if you haven't already, I would recommend going onto our website, because it goes into more detail there as to what we're looking for when it comes to things like longevity, when it comes to maturity, consistency, all of these different aspects of what we look at when we consider an applicant. That's what we're going to look at when we consider the Republic of Sova. So please just go on the website, have a look at what we're looking for, and then explain to us in the email why you meet the criteria that we have set. I have a question. Where is your micronation again? I forgot. Well, that's a red flag already. Stomaria does not identify as a micronation. But we are based in Hampshire, in southeast England. We do have the Republic of Vesta, with Consul David being based in Alabama, but the province of Vesta, Augusta, that isn't actually located in Alabama. It's actually located in Wyoming. So, and that's from the top of my head about 40 acres there. So, as I say, we're not opposed to affiliation or association with people or communities or entities in the United States or anywhere outside of the British Isles. In fact, we do have some citizens. I know we have one in Texas, and I think we have one other in the United States. I can't remember off the top of my head where it is. But we do have citizens and member states in the United States. So again, not opposed to association affiliation necessarily, but you just have to meet certain criteria for that to happen. France Ball says, do you have any territory? Yes, we have 3 territories, and that's one of the things we're actually going to be discussing as to how we're going to be defining them going forward. Stomaria itself is divided into provinces. The first province that we have is Southwood, and that is a province of Stomaria, but there's also territories Wayward South and Augusta, which is under the Kingdom of Wayward and the Republic of Vesta, who are both member states of the Empire, and that is also obviously included in the total. However, I don't think they have like an official designation as yet. So I know they are territories of the member states, but we've never really had a sit-down discussion to decide what this is what they're going to be called, this is who's going to be the governor of that territory, and so on and so forth. So trying to create a more streamlined system which preserves the cultural identities and autonomy of each member state, but nevertheless creates a more universal government structure, in the sense that the actual body of the empire is a bit more universal. That is something that we're going to be looking at, and perhaps I'll discuss that in a moment. But in short, we have 3 territories. 2 in Hampshire in England, and 1 in Wyoming, although Consul David of Vesta is based in Alabama at the moment. But yeah, so yeah, we have 3 territories. Let's have a look. Will you release a map soon? A map of the territories? I mean, if that is the case, then you only have to look at our website. It's on the homepage of our website. We do have a Google map set out with the 3 pins as to the territories, as to where they're located. So just go onto our website and it'll be there. So just quickly, I think we're all caught up for the moment. So just while, what's going on here? Sorry, just froze for a second. So while I have a bit of a lull in the proceedings, I will discuss quickly the intended, or the possible intended structure of Stomaria going forward. Because at the moment we have member states and we have observer states, and these are entities, communities that are not Stomaria, but nevertheless form part of the empire in some way. And then we have the provinces, which is the territory of Stomaria itself. So Stomaria is divided into provinces, and the member states have their own territory and their own definitions and designations for them. However, what I would like to do, and something that, again, I should stress has not been discussed or decided as yet, it's just me talking aloud, is potentially establishing the empire with using a more universal provincial system. That is to say, under such circumstances, Wayward South and Augusta would become provinces, but they would become provinces under Wayward and Vesta, obviously. And then Wayward and Vesta would appoint their own governors of those particular provinces, but then it would be more easy from our own perspective to say, we have 3 provinces, these are the 3 governors of those provinces, as opposed to this is Stomaria's provinces, and then there's a member state over there, and they have, whatever, a county or a duchy or whatever else, and Republic of Vesta has a region, or these different designations that I'm just making these up for the purpose of this, but something more streamlined I think would be more beneficial for the people both within the Empire of Stomaria and without, to get a better understanding of where exactly we are in terms of our territorial expansion, in terms of how we're run and how we're governed. But at the same time, obviously, still gives member states of the Empire far more control over their own affairs, because they will obviously appoint their own governors, they will obviously appoint or acquire their own territory and use that territory how they see fit. As always, we do not have any jurisdiction over this territory, in the sense that it's not my land, so they can obviously do with it as they please. But I think from the outside point of view looking in, having a more universal definition to define all of these territories as a collective would be more useful. And I think under such circumstances, we wouldn't even necessarily need the observer state, because we could simply refer to member states as any nation or community within the empire, and then the provinces of the empire would be allocated to each of the member states depending on who owned what. So you wouldn't even necessarily need to distinguish between member states and observer states in that sense. So again, it's a possible system that we're looking at. Within Stomaria at least, and then once I perhaps refine the details and discuss things a bit more, I'll go to the Republic of Estia and the Kingdom of Wayward and discuss it more with them, and then make amendments or make no changes at all, depending on the consensus. But I think it's probably a better time to do it now, like changing Stomaria's structure, while there is relatively few member states involved, because then going forward, people that become integrated will become integrated in something that's already there and established. We don't need to sort of move the goalposts once people join, because that can potentially cause friction or unease, because they potentially have signed up to something that no longer resembles what they actually joined. And trying to get things right as early as possible before Stomaria and the Empire at large really takes off is something that I'm quite keen to do. So I think perhaps that is something we're going to be looking at. So just checking up on this quickly. Right. So I suppose leading on from provinces, something I did want to discuss is the progress we've had at Southwood. Again, I've made an update video about this already, so I'm not going to delve into it too much. But long story short, Southwood is obviously a province of Stomaria, it's a territory of Stomaria, and recently we have really been upping the ante in terms of preparing it, in terms of establishing an agricultural base there. If you've seen the previous video, the progress report for Southwood for February 2024, you'll already be relatively familiar with what I'm talking about. But we had planted some, 75, I think, in total rhubarb plants in 35 raised beds. We've established, obviously established the water butts there already, and then we've established some compost bins, I think half a dozen or so. We fill those up with the leaves, and we're trying to compost it down or creating some mulch or some something to help the soil come along, because at the moment we're still importing compost to help the soil become a bit more healthy for the plants that we're actually planting. But ideally we'd like to do this ourselves, and so I have started that process. And again, it's all about trying to utilize all the resources at the territory itself. It's all about trying to be self-sufficient, self-reliant. It's all about trying to build a nation and a community and an empire that is as self-reliant as it can be. I mean, if we don't have to import compost to make things work, then that's the ideal. If we don't have to import new, plants, fruits, vegetables, herbs, whatever else, if we can just utilize what we've already got and then sort of either split them and create more and all the rest of it, that is something that we want to do. If we can collect our own water rather than putting in a mains and using the water from the mainland, that is to say from the rest of the UK, then that is also something we want to do. We want to be able to provide as much as we can for ourselves, because this is one of the driving purposes of Stomaria and the Empire at large, is to attain self-reliance and self-determination through legal and legitimate means. You're not going to do this through writing a letter to Parliament. You're not going to do this through waving your banner in the air angrily saying, I'm an independent nation now. You just go out there and take practical, pragmatic steps in order to mitigate your involvement in the wider world. Not in an isolationist way at all, but in a way that would allow you to prepare yourself and the people around you for, let's say, a societal collapse. And that's basically the benchmark of what we consider, what we look at. That is to say, if you look at where you are at the moment, not just Stomaria, but also what other entity you might be involved in, and let's say the apparatus around you no longer existed. So the water stopped running. You couldn't go to the shops to get food. Your power is not working anymore. Whatever else. The police aren't coming to your aid if something goes wrong. The ambulances aren't coming to your aid if something goes, like proper doomsday sort of scenario. And that I'm just talking worst case scenario. And then you just have to ask yourself honestly, in that situation, would I survive? Now, from our own perspective, the answer is a simple no, because we're not in that position yet, but we are taking steps towards that. And that is not to say that we are preparing for the end of the world, in a sense we're a doomsday cult or anything like that. But it is a good benchmark to base it off, because if you are looking to become more self-reliant, if you are looking to attain greater levels of self-determination, then you have to ask yourself honestly as to how you're going about doing that and how far along you are with that. So if the apparatus around you did not exist, would you survive? Because if the answer is no, then there's obviously more things you can do. There's obviously more work to be done. And that is the mentality that we have. And so that's how we're sort of driving that forward. And everything that we're doing at Southwood is a testament to that, if you like. It's on a very small scale. It's only a very small plot. It's only a quarter acre, a third of an acre. But the adjacent Wayward South, obviously, is another quarter acre, half an acre, quarter acre, third of an acre. So it's relatively sizable with the two combined territories. But it's still very, very small in the greater scheme of things. And what I would like to do is I would like to use this as a blueprint, if you like. I'm seeing what works and what doesn't. I'm learning all about these different ways about how to grow certain produce, how to look after the soil, how to make it more usable for the plants that we actually go for. In this case, rhubarb, but there'll be other plants and other produce going forward because we're a woodland territory. It's a woodland plot. It's a bit harder to grow certain things. But as we have seen earlier in the year, we can grow things in the woodland, and I won't let anyone tell me otherwise because I have done it. I have literally seen it, and I've shown it to the world. It can be done. And our rhubarb plants, King Roll actually sent me some photos. Was it earlier today or yesterday maybe? Of the rhubarb already starting to show great signs of life. So I'm very optimistic this year that we're going to have a lot of greenery at Southwood in terms of the rhubarb that we planted, along with the raspberries and the strawberries and things like that. But we're not going to be actually harvesting this until perhaps 2025, 2026, because you're actually supposed to leave it for the first year. So I'm told, I'm not an expert on rhubarb, but if you leave it for a year and you don't harvest it, and you just let the plant settle, if you let the crown settle and just leave it be, it will apparently produce a lot more, and it'll be a lot healthier and more long lasting in later years and later harvests. So that's something that we're going to be looking at, because I don't want to harvest the crops and then be forever for the next 10 years or so only yielding a fraction of what we could have done. So there is a conversation to be had there. I've got a few more comments, so bear with me a minute. So Nathan says hello. Guardian1326 says hello. Indo-Pacific Empire says hello and has asked what's the topic. This is the thing about these particular lives. I don't really have a topic. They're more of a way for the people that follow us or just general onlookers, if they want to find out more about Stomaria, if they want to learn more about us, if they have a question or concern that's not even necessarily to do with Stomaria, but perhaps just nation building more generally, then I'm here to consider those questions and to answer them to the best of my ability if I think I can. I do have a tendency just to ramble on about various different things and various different tangents. So yeah, I've covered Transnistria. I've covered partially covered the sort of what's it called, the provincial system that we might be going for and all the rest of it. But I'm just really interested in learning more about what other people have going on, because I want to help as many people as I can to do what we are doing. Because a bit of a tangent, but obviously Stomaria, for those who know, kind of pulled away from the Micronational community and the term Micronation more generally, because we thought it was just doing more harm than good. Very few were actually trying to accomplish what we were trying to accomplish, and it was putting off a lot of people that were potentially involved, but then started to associate with Stomaria with some of the more wacky elements, if you like, within that community, and it just really wasn't doing us any favours. So we decided to pull ourselves away from that, and we've just been doing our own thing. We don't comment or post on Micronational groups or forums or anything like that. But a lot of self-defined Micronations do find us to be interesting, because what we do is probably as close to what most people would consider a Micronation to be, in the sense that we are actually actively trying to do something in the real world. We're not some Discord server nation, we're not online, we're not virtual, we're not declaring wars and sanctions and embargoes against everyone, we're not changing our flag every other day, we're not changing our name every other day. we're actually out there and people can see that we're out there and we're actually trying to build something. And I think that's what a lot of people find quite appealing. Also, I'm just a fantastic individual. Oh, goodness me. I'm also just a fantastic individual who people obviously find me interesting to listen to. So I completely ruined that. I'm heartbroken about that one. Oh, sorry, what have we got here? All right. So something I forgot to mention is a couple of weeks ago, I actually I completely forgot about this. I turned on I think they call it super stickers or super chat on for the lives for the first time, and I didn't know anything about it. I completely forgot about it, but we have had just someone contribute and donate. So Guardian1326, thank you very much, not only for the first ever contribution on a Stomarian live, but also for confirming to me that it is working and people are able to do that now. So that's great. And you have left a question. So oh dear. What about aquaponics and other crops? So I'm going to show my ignorance here, I'm afraid. Aquaponics. Save me Googling it. Just tell me what that is. And I'll let you know about that one. But in terms of other crops, we did in 2023 plant about 24 herbs, fruits and vegetables. We're talking lavender, mint, strawberries, raspberries, 2 types of potato, beetroot, 2 types of shallot, gosh, not radishes, swede, broccoli, what was the other one? Literally 2 dozen. We had about 25 different raised beds, and in each of them was something different. Corn even we attempted in the woods, which to be fair did work to some extent, but there wasn't enough sun for some of them. But I have shown photos and videos of this before. I recommend you go back and look at some of those, some of the progress reports that I made on our playlist. If you go back in sort of, I suppose, June, July, August time, you'll be able to see it a lot more clearly. And then we do have some photos, one particular photo in mind. But it was an explosion of greenery and produce, and it was fantastic. But because Southwood is so far away, the issue, well, I say so far away, it's about an hour for me to get there, a little over an hour to get there, which is fine, but it means I'm not there every day. And it means that, because obviously we're in the woodland territory as well, it's a case of wildlife being quite easy to access the crops, the plants that we have in there. So that was always a risk. And so what we decided to do is we settled on rhubarb, because rhubarb was one of the things we grew in 2023, and we knew it was successful. We could see it growing. But more than this, it is something that deer and rabbit don't typically eat, and it's also relatively drought resistant. It's quite low maintenance, so not necessarily be there every day to water it or look after it or whatever else. It can pretty much take care of itself. And so all of these factors combined, as well as the fact that it is a perennial plant, which means it'll be there, that crown should hopefully be in position in those beds for the next 10 years or so, and then when it comes to the chop, we can literally split it apart and create a new one. So hopefully from this point on, we won't need to buy any more rhubarb. We can just split them and keep planting them. That's the intention, that's the plan anyway. But it's still very early days on that front, so we're just going to have to see how we go. But that is the reason that we have rhubarb there. The raspberries and the strawberries are actually something that's more to do with the Kingdom of Wayward, that has utilised a part of our territory and established a large cage there. I said, do you want to put something there and all the rest of it? So it's one of the sunniest spots in the woodland. They put a cage over it to hopefully mitigate the amount of pests coming to get the raspberries and the strawberries. And hopefully we'll be able to make some jams out of the rhubarb, the raspberries, and the strawberries. So that is the plan anyway. And we're going to see how we go. But over the next month or two, we'll be able to see some real greenery there, and I look forward to reporting on those. But in terms of other crops, we will be planting them, but perhaps not at Southwood. Perhaps somewhere in the next territory, next province we acquire, perhaps will be a bit more open, a bit sunnier. That's the game plan on that front. But again, thank you very much for the donation, for the contribution. It is appreciated. Just going back up. Guardian1326 has again said, I just came in myself, but it appears to be about water supply and self-sustainability. Oh, sorry, we're talking about the topic, yes. As I say, I cover a wide range of things on these lives. I typically do them for about 2 hours or so. I have done in the past at least, and there's probably going to be no exception on this occasion. And I like to chat because I have a tendency to ramble about things, and I like to talk about things, especially regarding the Empire of Stomaria. And it is one of the few times that I actually engage in a live capacity with people outside of Stomaria and the wider empire, in the sense that people send me emails and I reply to them, or people will comment on our posts and reply to them. But in like a live capacity, I don't go and visit other nations, communities, or individuals unless there's a reason to do so. And so this is a good way, I think, just to interact with the wider world, in the sense that people that do follow us might find us to be particular interest for whatever reason. Some people do find us to be inspirational. I'm not blowing my own horn when I say that. That's what people do say from time to time, and they take a lot from what we have to say and what we've done in the past. And if nothing else, we can be a blueprint for people as to what they potentially can do, but also what they potentially shouldn't do. And I'm happy to be a canary in the gold mines on that front, because this is obviously all new to me. I have seen what other people have done in the past, and what people are doing now, and I think they are making tremendous mistakes in various different ways. But ultimately, it's their life, their choice. They can do it as they please. But a lot of people do find our brand of nation building, and that's kind of how I differentiate it between sort of micronationalism and genuine nation building. That's the kind of differentiation I always try to make, or have done for the last year or so, because I think fundamentally there is a difference. And people that are interested in genuine nation building, who aren't interested in make-believe wars, or getting into arguments and fights and everything about with some other nation or community over a Twitter post or whatever else. I'm not interested in that sort of thing, and a lot of people that I know within that community aren't interested in that sort of thing. They're interested in acquiring private freehold land, about generating energy, about producing their own food, supplying their own water, about having their own genuine monetary system, which can be actually utilized both on a local scale within your own community, but also on a wider scale, which is why we use silver, for instance, in the Sumerian stater bars and stater coins. But again, all of these just feed into the same narrative, which is we are doing something different from the majority of micronations, and so we do try to sort of forge our own path, and a lot of people like the path that we're on, which is why we do have the following that we do. We have thousands and thousands of people that follow us on social media. I think we have 2,300 now, I think, on YouTube, in addition to, 5,000 plus on Facebook. We have a few hundred on Twitter, on Discord, and a few on our subreddit as well. We don't really promote social media as much. In fact, I think the only time we actually link to it is on the homepage of our website. So maybe we should promote them a bit more heavily than we do. But YouTube is definitely the mainstay of Stomaria. It's not where we started. We actually started on our Facebook page, which is why we have so many more followers there. But when it comes to YouTube, that's definitely where I prefer to be, because it allows for more interaction of this nature, I think. I completely forgot the original question. So this is what I mean. I just go off on tangents. Aquaponics is food production system that couples with aquaculture, raising aquatic animals with hydroponics. Okay, so I mean, the problem, I suppose, is that at Southwood, which is the only Stomarian province, is that we don't have water, like a water source. So if that is, I presume, going to be a requirement of that, then it's not something that we're going to be looking to do at Southwood, but certainly something that we look to do further down the line. The reason that we have, or one of the reasons we have the water butts on the shed, if you've ever seen videos of Southwood, you'll see the shed and it's got 2 water butts either side collecting water. And we've got water butts elsewhere as well in the woodland, with the Kingdom of Wayward. But the reason that we do this is because there is no source of water there. So if we want to water our plants in the summer, we have to collect it during the sort of spring, autumn, winter time, and then utilize that water sparingly over the course of the hotter periods of the summer. And so having some sort of aquatic animals or agriculture, it's not really possible where we are at the moment, but it's definitely something that we consider, because I love learning about these sorts of things. Nothing we've done at Southwood is something that I was familiar with beforehand, but now I'm relatively comfortable with doing. So again, doing some sort of aquaponic food production is definitely something that we consider going forward. Into Pacific Empire says I got that from Google. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I could Google it myself, obviously, but it would be a bit rude. Democratic. What does Stomaria have in terms of legislation? How do you pass it? Do you do it ceremonially, like Ostination or Liberland, or not at all, like Eternia? I don't know how any of them have structured their legislature. I don't know how they pass legislation or anything like that. I don't claim to be an expert in any of them. In terms of Stomaria passes legislation, that's very much a case of my word is law. It's as simple as that. When it comes to Stomaria specifically, I should stress, when it comes to the wider empire, it's very much consensus driven, in the sense that I will typically push for something to be approved or ratified or in some way brought into fruition. For a good example would be what I was discussing earlier about potentially altering the structure of Stomaria's empire by turning the territories of each of the member states into provinces of the empire with governors of those provinces. Now, this is something that we don't already have in place. It's something that Stomaria has, but as a to create something more universal, that's something perhaps we might move towards, or certainly would discuss. But I can't simply declare that unilaterally and expect everyone to go along with it without some sort of discussion. And so we do have what we call the imperial court for that, and that's for representatives of the empire. So it would be Consul David of Vesta, it would be King Raoul of Wayward, as well as Lady Ellen of Wayward. Lord Harvey of Stomaria is also on there. And basically it's any people that have been instrumental in Stomaria's success, or people that represent particular communities or provinces. This is a group chat, a private group chat in which we can discuss things like this, and we'll probably have an imperial court meeting before too long to discuss this particular matter. But in terms of anything particularly formal, we don't really have a formal process as such, and that's mainly because when it comes to Stomaria and the member states of the empire, it's all about private freehold land. And when it comes to private freehold land, it's private because it belongs to someone. In this, Southwood belongs to me. So what possible legislation would I expect? I don't want to have to go to people who have nothing to do with the actual land, the land that I own, and go, am I allowed to do this, or can I do that, or should I do this? It's my land, I'll do what I want with it. And the same with the Kingdom of Wayward. Wayward South is their land, they can do what they want with it. Same with the Republic of Vesta, it's their land, they can do what they want with it. More specifically, King Raoul and Consul David can do what they want with it. So in terms of a legislative process, it's not really necessary at this time. And it might never be in my lifetime, in the sense that we also, when it comes to legislation, you also have to take into account what the laws and regulations are of the land that you actually are based in the sense that I always have to consider UK laws. No good me saying, waving a magic wand, say, well, I've just made a law saying I can carry guns in public. Because obviously that's not a law that applies in the United Kingdom, and if I do that in the United Kingdom or even on my own land in certain circumstances, I will be arrested, fined, prosecuted in some way. And that's just, you can debate to the cows come home as to whether or not that's right or wrong, but that is just reality. And so when it comes to legislation, what we're probably talking more like is either amending the values or the aspirations or the objectives of the nation, or perhaps the game plan, the intentions of how we're going to get from A to B, or maybe certain rules and regulations on the land itself. But these are more like a handbook as to how you go about things, as opposed to a genuine law which is punishable by something. Now, I can't fine someone. I can prevent them from coming on the land, for instance, but I can't fine people necessarily, because I don't have any enforcement mechanism. And any legislation without an enforcement mechanism is unenforceable. So it's relatively pointless on that front. So yeah, again, I don't know how others do it, but we're relatively informal, I would say. Indo-Pacific Empire says, what's the website called? www.stomaria.com. If you're talking about our website, it will be in the description of this particular video and all of our videos. So feel free to go and have a look at that. Guardian1326 says, what about groundwater? You could place down a pipe and hand pump. Now, the thing is, as southward, although I suppose technically it was more wayward south, they excavated quite significantly there at one point in the past. It's no longer the case, it's completely been filled up yet, but I won't go into specifics, but it went a fair way down, like quite far, and they never encountered any groundwater there. So I can only assume that the groundwater table is a lot higher, a lot lower, sorry, at that land. It's very, I mean, it is a woodland territory, but it is quite arid there. You get a lot of surface water. That is one of the problems at Southwood. But in terms of having like a regular water source, that is something that they have tried before or unintentionally attempted. But there's never been any source of water that we could actually get to and utilize in any real way. There is like I believe a stream. I don't think I've never been there, but there's a stream, half a mile up the road or something, I think, which they did utilize at one point in desperation, or maybe it was a bit further than that. But that was obviously a bit of an arduous task in transporting water that way. So that's why we have the water butts, and based on the produce that we have, the way that we're organised, in the sense that we obviously are less haphazard than what was there before. There was a lot more there before we took over southward from the Kingdom of Wayward, and it's a lot more organised, a lot more streamlined, and I think probably a bit easier to manage and keep watered. But in terms of like any kind of aquatic produce or wildlife, Southwood is most certainly not the place for it. I mean, I can tell you that from nothing. I've been there for nearly 5 years now, and it's just not the kind of place that you're going to be able to do it. Which is why we have the water collection facilities that we do. Just while I think about it, actually, just because Guardian1326 there has made the super chat or the super sticker contribution, which is fantastic, and I'm very appreciative of that. But just while I think about it, I did touch on this on the a previous video that I made a week or two ago. Was that a week? Yeah, it must have been about a week ago. When it comes to the citizenship of Stomaria, for those that aren't aware, what we are doing now is that if you want to become a citizen of Stomaria, it's very, very straightforward. It's similar to the old system that we had, but effectively, we have a PayPal account. And that PayPal account is actually linked in the description of this particular video and all of our other videos, and is also on our website as well. If you want to become a citizen of Stomaria, because I just can't keep interviewing people the way we did before. You have to go onto that PayPal account and you just have to contribute something, anything. I don't know what the minimum is. Is it £1? Might be less, I don't know, for PayPal. But from there, once you've made a financial contribution, we'll have your name, we'll have your address, we'll have contact details and all the rest of it. And then you will be made a citizen of Stomaria. Now, this obviously means that anyone from anywhere in the world can become a citizen of Stomaria. And we're obviously very grateful for that. But it also means that I have, from that point, a track record of who is contributing what, because we are a nation of voluntary taxation. So citizens can contribute as much or as little as they want to Stomaria itself. But we do have a record of who is contributing what and when they officially joined. And leading on from that, for those that want to get more heavily involved, we will obviously take this in consideration in the sense that if someone joins as a citizen, 2 years ago, and they contributed £1, and they said, I'm a dedicated Stomarian supporter and whatever else, and we don't have a record of any actual contributions to Stomaria itself, then it'll raise the question as to how dedicated they are to the actual community that we're trying to establish and the nation we're trying to build. So again, it's just our way of trying to create a simpler, refined means of getting people on board, but also making sure that they're adding some kind of value to the community that we're trying to establish and the nation that we're trying to build and the empire we're trying to establish. Because ultimately, the way that we were doing it was just taking up too much of my time. When I was doing the interview process, I mean, I'd spend 1 or 2 hours per individual, just trying to get to know more about them and all the rest of it. And it was just taking up so much more of my time. And time at the moment is a premium for me. I have a lot of things that I need to be doing for not just Stomaria, but for also other things in my own personal life. And so it's just a simpler method of citizenship recruitment. So if you want to become a citizen of Stomaria, go onto our PayPal account, send a whatever it is, 5p, 10p a pound, I don't know what the minimum is, just whatever, because then I have a record of who you are. And then we can go from there. And if you want to get more heavily involved, then we can talk about it at that point. But for those who are just interested in generic citizenship, that is the way to do it. And I will probably make a video about this more formally, but it was just because Guardian 1326 obviously has made a financial contribution to us, which is, again, greatly appreciated and fantastic. But in order to become a citizen, you just have to do something similar through our PayPal account. So I just want to make sure that's clear. Now, when it comes to southward, again, something else that I did want to discuss, and this is perhaps slightly related to southward, in the sense that we have a gathering that's going to be planned in sort of late May, early June. And the reason I haven't really discussed this at all is because we're still working out the details. But long and short of it is, in a few months' time, we are going to be hosting an event, or more specifically, the Kingdom of Wayward is going to be hosting an event, which will be, I don't know if it's going to be the Imperial Summit as such. It might just be a Waywardian themed event. That's certainly what I'm leading, which was held in June to celebrate Stomaria's 4-year anniversary. It was the first real major gathering of Stomarians Waywardians in a long time. And it was a wonderful event. It was a wonderful affair. And this year is going to be more Waywardian focused, I would say, because I've sort of, certainly in the last few months, I've taken a slightly more backseat approach to things, just while I work out things in my own personal life, as well as doing some quite significant behind-the-scenes work for Stomaria itself. And so in terms of organising an event and preparing all the things, I mean, I know how long it takes and how much it costs and what kind of dedication you have to put towards it, because I already did it. I did it in June last year, and it took me, it was many weeks and many months of planning and trips down to the southward where it was hosted in order to get the woodland ready and all the rest of it. So it was quite a demanding process. So I'm quite happy for Wayward to take the lead on this occasion. However, I just want to say that it might not be held, this event, at Southwood. It might be held at a different venue, because they want potentially something a bit more formal. Now, that's not to say that that rules out Southwood in its entirety. If all else fails, we can always fall back on Southwood and Wayward South, the two joining territories, where we will be able to have various people come, Waywardians, Stomarians, and other invited guests. But just to put it on people's radar, we are looking to potentially have an event towards the end of May, early June. Official dates, official locations, and all that jazz will come in due course. But I just wanted to make people aware of that, just in case I don't want it to come out of the blue necessarily. And I will probably make a video about this hopefully in the next week or two, once we've firmed up a few more details, or potentially firmed up a few more details. Sorry, it's just frozen out there for a second. Yeah, good. I don't think we have any more comments to respond to there, so that's fine. I suppose one of the last things that I had that I wanted to discuss in any real way was I suppose you could define it as the promotion of Stomaria in a wider capacity, in the sense that it has been suggested, and I turned it down for instance, but it has been suggested that we start commenting again on different forums and groups and everything that might be related to us in some form or another. And I don't really want to go down that route if I can avoid it. I would rather sort of build our own support base, our own following, as organically as possible. And that means just trying to raise the profile of Stomaria through our own postings and our own forums and our own groups and all the rest of it. Because even though it might be a slower process, I don't want to necessarily give I don't want to give Stomaria a reputation, if you like, in the sense that when we were commenting more widely on other groups and forums and all the rest of it, we would typically post every 2 or 3 days, depending on what we were doing, and it did on occasion become slightly more repetitive. And it's fine if it's just on our own groups and forums and everything. I know Stomarian citizens are perfectly happy to be updated and kept updated about those sorts of things, but everyone else might not be. And so I'm a bit reluctant to go down that route. So what we're going to be doing in terms of promoting Stomaria, one of the things that we're going to be doing is we are going to be creating a new, not a new intro as such, but a new, I'm trying to think of the right word, like an intro video, but not for necessarily for each video that we do, but like a snapshot of everything to do with Stomaria. And the way we're going to be doing this, I don't think it was potentially going to happen this year, but I think it's more likely going to happen next year, is we're going to be doing like a staged event, if you like. We're going to be having Stomarians and Waywoodians and other people coming to a particular land, particular territory, whatever else, and we're going to be having all these different shots. It's going to be a bit like a movie set, and we're going to be highlighting exactly who we are and what we're doing. And we've already sort of written out the scenes for this sort of thing, and we've already decided, or I certainly decided on sort of a layout and how we're going to go about doing it. And I'm quite excited about it because it's going to be the first time that we've ever done any like major, like organized promotional content for Stomaria and for the wider empire. And this then can get shared about potentially through advertisements or something like that, but not through our own postings and other groups or forums. It'll just be through YouTube advertising, for instance, or Reddit or Facebook or whatever else. We can just promote it that way in a bit more of a formal capacity. And I think that's probably the better way to go about it, because by the time it gets to that point, we'll be in a lot more, we'll be a lot stronger position, in the sense that we've already progressed quite far as it is. But I do want to take things to the next level as much as I can. I do want to push things forward as much as I can. And the only real way to do that is to start promoting ourselves to a wider audience, but it has to be the right audience and it has to be done in the right way. And so, contributing on groups and forums and all the rest of it on a regular basis isn't really something I'm particularly interested in. We'll just do it on our own until we're in a position to actually advertise in a formal capacity what we're doing in a more major way. So again, that's just something I want to promote there. I think, don't know how long we've been doing this. Just having a look, a little under an hour. I can already feel my voice going, so you'll have to excuse me for a minute. For those who are wondering, I'm not at all a coffee drinker, but I have taken a liking recently to this oat-based vanilla coffee, a chill coffee. So feel free to judge, but that's my go-to drink at the moment for these sorts of things. Keeps me awake. Having said that, I think I've pretty much covered everything I want to cover, and I think we're pretty much caught up with the chat and all the rest of it, so that's fantastic. But again, I wasn't really planning to do a live, it wasn't really heavy promoted or anything like that, so I think we'll probably just leave it there for today. It'll just be one of the shorter lives that we do. But having said that, if you are interested in learning more about Stomaria, please feel free to go onto our website, find out more about us, get in touch if you want to find out more, and we'll we'll go from there. If you want to become a citizen, obviously, as I said earlier, you can join through Wayward has just popped into the chat. Say something interesting, Raoul, and I'll stay for another 5 minutes or something. You'll have to look back on the actual conversation, because I was actually talking about how we're going to restructure Wayward. Just kidding, but not really. What was I saying? But yeah, if you are interested in Stomaria, then obviously you can get in. You can become a citizen by going through our PayPal and all the rest of it. Get in touch with us through our website, and all the contact details are on there. So please feel free to contact us through that. But I can't believe you jumped in, Raoul, and you just derailed my entire outro here. more interested in the contents there. Did you not catch it? Surely you're familiar with my love of chilled coffee, vanilla, the oat-based vanilla chilled coffee. I'm sure we've had this conversation before. I know it looks a bit sus. But it's most enjoyable. Iced coffee, yes. I'm allowed to like things too, Raoul. Oh, see, now you got people jumping back in. Guardian 1326 says, would you like some seeds that are popular for the US South? Like orca. Sorry, not okra. Okra? Okra? So yeah, I plead my ignorance to these sorts of things. I'm not against the idea of getting seeds sent. However, when it comes to sending things like fruits and vegetables, I know there's obviously a lot of customs issues. So I imagine seeds will not be able to pass through customs in that way. But we do have the Republic of Vesta, who's based in Alabama and Wyoming. So maybe if you want to get in touch with us, we can potentially put you in contact with Consul David, and he might be able to acquire and utilize those, which I think probably would be the best way forward. I think Consul David is in the middle of some quite intensive training at the moment, so he might be a bit harder to get a hold of. So it might be a bit of time before we can actually make that transaction, if that is a transaction that you want to do. But because the Republic of Vesta is a member state of the Empire, what helps them helps us. So if that's something you're interested in, and again, only because I don't think the seeds can get sent from the US to the UK, at least I'm suspicious or would question whether or not we could do that. But if that is something you're interested in, then please do let me know. We would say is restructuring. Kind of. So you're going to make me repeat everything rather than you go back and actually look at this. So effectively what I'm thinking, Raoul, just while you're here, we'll have this conversation for everyone to see. So my thinking is that the way that the Empire is currently structured, obviously we have member states, observer states, and then we have provinces, which are obviously the provinces of Stomaria itself. But my line of thinking over the last few days, and I was going to have a conversation about this in the next week or so, was that obviously we have Wayward South and we have Augusta, which is the territory under Wayward and the Republic of Vesta, respectively. But I don't actually know what you designate those as. I don't know if they're sort of regions or districts, counties, duchies, or just defined as territories. But one of my thought processes was that the empire itself could be provincial, in the sense that all of the territories of the empire will be provinces and each of them will have governors. Now, obviously, Wayward South would have you as the governor or whoever you decide to appoint, and the same with the Republic of Vesta. It'd be, but virtually nothing changed in a practical sense. But from a structural point of view, it would just create a more universal outlook. But again, it was just an idea that I sort of had floated over the last few days, and I wanted to discuss it with yourself and David. Nothing's been decided, nothing's been confirmed or anything. Yeah, don't worry about a restructuring. I was just joking. I'm not restructuring Wayward in any shape or form. It's just the structure and the designations given to the wider empire is perhaps changing. Maybe scrap observer state, just have member states as any community or entity that forms a part of the empire, and then each of those communities may or may not have a province within the empire, and we can potentially sort of organise it that way. I'm just trying to think of ways in which I can simplify the structure and simplify our outlook to the wider world. And so that's just a thought process I was having. But again, don't worry, nothing's been decided, nothing's been settled on. It's just literally an idea I floated and was keen to discuss at some point. Weaver says, it's always been territory for us, but yes, makes sense. Yeah, but again, yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, if, say Vesta said it was a region and you said it was a territory and we said it was a province, and the empire consisted of these different terminologies, and I think maybe it just adds a layer of confusion for people both within the empire and outside the empire as a whole. I think it's probably an unnecessary confusion, which we can probably look at. But again, we discussed it. It's not an automatic no from you, so encouraging, I suppose, but it's something I need to have a think about as well, because it's obviously a case of not only how do we define the territory, but then how do we define what land? Because obviously you have private freehold land, but then, okay, what if you decide that all of these citizens of Wayward, all of their homes are now provinces of Wayward, and therefore provinces of the Empire? Or does that fly in the face of what, you know, I would consider to be a province myself? So obviously there has to be some consensus there as well. So again, it's something we can discuss. But just trying to create something a bit more universal, trying to create something a bit more uniform, I think is just something, the way I'd like to go about it. So this is interesting, isn't it? My live streams become an Imperial Court chat all of a sudden. So I just need to David, Consul David from Vesta to pop in, or Lord Harvey. Maybe is Lady Anne about Raoul? Maybe I can get her to take the minutes to the live Imperial Court meeting that's happening before everyone's eyes. But yeah, anyway, that's what I was discussing on that front. So don't need to fret too much. But again, I think I'm largely caught up on everything I want to do here. Actually, if you're still here, Raoul, I don't suppose you did say to wait until Monday, but I don't suppose you've heard anything back regarding the venue for the event, because that is also something I touched upon a moment ago, about the potential for a late May, early June event being hosted at a particular venue of your choosing. But again, I just wanted to see if there was any progress reports on that, just while you're here, I suppose. Just hijack the live for our own purposes, and we'll have a conversation while everyone else just watches. Event venue, no, unfortunately, not at the moment. Okay, yeah, that's what I figured. So, yeah, I think we'll give it, you know, another few days, give it another week or so. But I think trying to pin down an official location will be quite helpful. It'll be Monday, as that's an urban day for me. Yeah. So, yeah, because I am getting people messaging me, contacting me, saying if there is going to be another event, obviously. And people obviously need to book time off work. They need to know where it's going to be. They need to potentially book, you know, B&Bs or hotels or whatever else, depending on where it is and what the actual venue is. So yeah, we do have people that are potentially interested in coming, but we obviously just need to pull the trigger on that one. Obviously, if all else fails, I don't know if we are going to be doing it at Southwood as a last-minute resort. But if that is the case, obviously we need to up the ante and getting the woodland ready for that sort of thing. So again, it's just a question of getting that confirmation, and we'll go on from there. I was also talking about the rhubarb, the photos that you'd sent, as well as the strawberries and the raspberries and everything that are doing all well at Southwood and Wayward South. So last minute will be Tanners. Okay, Tanners. Reminder, I recall mention of that at some point, but I forget the actual location. That's not the one up the road, is it? That's somewhere else. Anyway, don't worry about it. We can discuss the finer details at some point. Again, losing my voice for this particular live. Oh, Burley. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean that was a nice enough location, and it's easy enough for people to get to, and it's virtually in the same neck of the woods. So I'm not too worried about that. If that is going to be the last minute resort, then that's absolutely fine. And yes, rhubarb is doing good. All right, fantastic. All right. Well, I'm sorry that you've only sort of caught the tail end of this, Raoul. You missed all the riveting discussions and all the rest of it. You'll have to do a bit of a catch up. But I am actually now going to leave it there because, as I say, I'm losing my voice and I've got some other things that I need to be doing tonight. However, as I was saying before, Wayward, before King Raoul jumped into the chat and derailed my outro. If you did want to become involved in Stomaria, if you did want to become a Stomarian citizen, then do so through our PayPal account, which is in the description of this particular video. But if you wanted to find out more about us generally, and I would recommend doing so before becoming a citizen, then visit our website or get in touch with us to find out more if that's something that you're generally interested in. But more broadly, if you did want to show support for Stomaria, then please feel free to give this video a like. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we will indeed catch you in the next one.